As your drawings increase in size, it's easy for your annotations to get buried beneath line work or hatch. If you create your annotations on multiple layers, it becomes even more difficult to ensure that those labels remain at the front of the drawing. In this lesson, we're going to learn an easy way to select all of our annotations, regardless of layer, and bring them to the front of all other objects. On my screen, I have a drawing of a small subdivision. If I zoom in, you can see that I have several text labels in this file. I also have quite a bit of hatch. Now, as I was creating my hatch, some of my labels got covered up. As you can see, a couple of my labels are being obscured by hatch, as are some of my top of foundation labels. And if I wave around up here, you can see that some of my finished grade elevations are also being obscured. I'm going to do a zoom extents, and to fix this, I'm going to move up to the Modify panel, and I'll open the Draw Order flyout, and I'll come down and select Bring Text to Front. This selects all of my labels, regardless of the layer they may be on, and draw orders them to the front of the drawing. Next, I'll type RE to regenerate the drawing, and then we'll zoom in and take a look at the difference. So, no matter how many annotations you may have in a drawing, even if they're on several different layers, you can always be certain that your labels are visible by using the Text to Front tool. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to do some basic formatting of single-line text using Windows shortcuts. On my screen, I have a detail of a standard curb and gutter. The title of this detail was created using single-line text. I would like to add an underline to this title. Now, if you're a veteran Autocad user, I'm sure you've used the %% toggle many times. I'm here to tell you, you don't have to do that anymore. To underline this text, I'm going to double-click to select it. Then I will click and drag across the text I'd like to underline, and I'll press Ctrl-U. If I press Ctrl-U again, I can turn the underline off. This is the same shortcut you would use in Microsoft Word. In case you were wondering, we could apply an overline to this text by pressing Ctrl-O. I am going to turn the overline off, and I will drag across all of this text, and I'll press Ctrl-U to add an underline to everything. When I'm finished, I'll press Enter. So when it comes to the %% codes, you can finally let a couple of those go. When you're working with single-line text, there is no fancy editor. Instead, you have to use the %% toggles. AutoCAD does a great job automating lettered and numbered lists. Even so, there is a possibility when editing a list that it might get out of sequence. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to revise the order of an automated list. On my screen, I have an example of some general notes. As you can see, we have a numbered list with some lettered lists nested inside. Let's start by removing point number 2. Maybe I'd like to have these 2 lettered lists under the same heading. To do that, I'm going to double-click to bring up the text editor, and then I will drag across this text. I'll press Backspace, and then I'll press Backspace a couple more times to clean up the spacing. Now, notice that AutoCAD did a nice job renumbering these items. However, my lettered list is out of sequence. ABC is good, but the rest of this has to change. To correct the list, I'm going to click, hold, and drag all of the items that I'd like to fix. I'll right-click, and under Bullets and Lists, I'll select Continue. And as you can see, AutoCAD continues my list, starting with the next letter after C. When I'm finished, I'll click the X to close the text editor. Now, let's say I'd like to restore point number 2. Once again, I'll double-click my text. I'm going to click after point C, and I'll press Enter. Of course, AutoCAD thinks I'm adding to the lettered list. Now, I don't want to do that, so I'll press Backspace to take that away. I'm going to type 2, period, and then the Tab key so that AutoCAD knows that this is part of a numbered list. I'll type Utility Coordination, and I'll press Enter. Notice AutoCAD formats the margins properly. However, I do have an extra number now. I'm going to press Backspace to take that away. I'll backspace one more time. Let's fix a couple other formatting issues. I'm going to click, hold, and drag across this point, and I would like to underline this, and I'd like to change its text height to 0.1 so it matches the other numbered items. Let's do one more thing. I'm going to click after Note C, and I'll hold my Shift key and press Enter to add a blank space. All right, once again, my lettered list is out of sequence. To correct this, I'm going to click, hold, and drag to select all of these lettered items. I'll right-click, and in Bullets and Lists, I'll select Restart. When I'm finished, I'll click the X to close the text editor. Now notice we have one more issue. With all of my editing, my numbered list has gotten out of sequence. I'm going to double-click to bring up the editor. If I click, hold, and drag to the left, notice that I can't get access to this number. That's because the number is being generated automatically. Unfortunately, it's also wrong. To correct this, I'm going to right-click, and under Bullets and Lists, I'm going to come down and remove the check next to Allow Bullets and Lists, and I'll click Continue. This essentially turns the list feature off, and now I have access to any of these text items. So I am going to manually change this to a 3, and then I'll right-click, I'll go back to the menu, and I'll turn the Bullets and Lists feature back on. And I'll click Continue. As you can see, my number's fixed, and if I was to click after this point and press Enter, notice AutoCAD picks up with the number 4. I'm going to click Backspace to remove the 4 and the extra space, and when I'm finished, I'll click the X to close the editor. So, even though our lists in AutoCAD are completely automated, there is a chance that they might get out of order. If so, AutoCAD allows us to continue, restart, or manually edit a list to suit any need.